mounting my dash cam. This video is going to kind of cover a couple different subjects. I'm going to get power up in here for a key on. There's a big pocket up on top of here. If you own one of these, this whole thing you can store stuff on. My dash cam, I don't like wires hanging down, don't want to droop it down from the bottom and stuff, so I like it mounted up here. There's a ridge up here that I can get my fingers up in that goes all the way over to this little point here. There's a small piece of headliner right here, and then this pillar has enough room to tuck a wire behind. So what I did is I took a piece of wire, test fished it right down through there, so I can fish it right behind there, and it pops out underneath of my glove box. So I'm going to pull the glove box out. I'm going to fish my wire from up behind the light console here. I'm going to put in another one of these USB chargers, or USB ports, like this. I'm not going to mount it. I could mount it if I wanted to up in here, like so. I'm just going to sit it up on top of there because I'm not sure exactly what I want to do with it yet. I can also fix it so it's actually mounted up in here so I can plug things in up above. So if I wanted to put a tablet or something up here, I could actually put a tablet up in there and charge it, and then, you know, no one would know it was up there besides me, and I'd still have a charger port. So I'm just going to leave it in here for now. I just want to get power up there for now and run my camera, and then as I add things later, I'll have it there if I need it. So first thing I want to do is I want to remove my light. To do this, you can take a body tool if you need to and put it up in here. There's 2 spring clips in the front and then a couple pieces of plastic to catch in the back. So if you pull down on the front, these 2 little springs here are what holds it in, and if you pull forward a little bit, it comes down out. As you can see, there's a little plastic tab here, a little plastic tab here. If you needed to change the light bulbs for some reason while you were in there, or if this is why you were taking this apart, sorry, I'm trying to keep the light out of the camera. There's a hinge side which has 2 little pins in it, and a non-hinge side. So to get that open, all you would do is take your fingers, grab a hold of the non-hinge side, and pop it open, and then you can get your light bulbs in there. And my wire's in the way, so that's why it wouldn't open. So I've got my light. If you can see up in there, there's a hole to the left and a hole to the right. So the hole to the right is open. The hole to the left is where the wires come from the factory harness in. The hole to the left, if you push a wire up through there, will pop out right behind where my camera is. So basically, I'm going to feed a wire from up in the top down to my camera. So I'm just going to use a regular USB wire that would run the camera. And again, with my USB charger sitting up in here, I've got full access to anywhere up in this headliner that I wanted to run power to. Again, I could run one up into the top part. I can get power for another light if I wanted to add more lights. If I want to do an LED light on the inside here, I've got power up there for whatever I want. So if you watch my video from the other day, if not, if you look online, I'll try to put a link to it. Basically, I pulled my original power from these by the drink holder. There's a key on and a constant 12 volt there. Personally, I don't like the fact that the flap would be open with a USB charger in there and a drink right in front of it. You spill your drink, spill water, whatever, it runs down the charger port. It's probably not going to do any damage to your goods, but you know, it could short something out. It could also just make a big mess. So I'd rather plug my stuff in other places. So I put a USB charger up in here. When I did that, I pulled the constant hot off of here, ran it up in here so I could put my phone up in here, and it would be hot all the time, because there's nothing more aggravating to turn off your vehicle, and nothing charges because your vehicle's turned off, at least for me. A lot of times my phone dies during the middle of the day and I've got to charge it back up, and it's just inconvenient to have the key on the whole time. So underneath here, this panel here, if you get your fingers underneath of it, will pull off. Again, if you need a body tool for this, grab a body tool. Plastic cover. If you hook it from the bottom, it's easier. So pull out towards you. There's a clip at the bottom and a clip at the top, and then this pulls forward and slides out. The reason it pulls forward is because of this catch right here. If you try to pull out on the back, you're going to snap that, and then your piece is just going to flop around forever. So inside of here, this is my key on I ran the other day. I taped it green because the wiring harness underneath there was green, and that way I would know when I come back to it, that's my key on wire. So I got my key on wire here. That's my constant hot and ground I ran to the top. Now I have the option of pulling this ground from here up there also, but there's also a ground already up there for the light, so I'm just going to grab a new ground from the top where the light is. I'm going to use my key on from down here and use the ground from up top. So I'm going to need to run one wire from here to the top of my vehicle. So the next step is removing the glove box. I don't need to take it all the way out, but I'm going to drop it down to where I can get behind it. To remove this, there's 2 plastic clips on the side there. This plastic square pops out from the inside on both sides of the glove box. And basically the rubber piece that catches the glove box, the stop back there, it's hard to see with the camera angle, but if you lift up a little bit, so we're going to take a little bit of pressure off, not a lot. I'm just going to push on those 2 tabs there and pop that little piece of plastic out. So I'm not sure if you'll be able to see that or not, but basically take my finger, push down on this part. On the inside I'm holding it to keep it from popping back in. Push up on that tab. Sorry, drop the camera of course, or drop the light. Once I get the tab started from the inside, I'm just going to pry it out. And then this little piece comes out. I'm going to repeat for the other side. Alright, so the other side, same thing, push down the tab, lift up on the other tab, and take a little bit of pressure off there so it's not resting up against the rubber stop, and then pop this out. Sorry, I'm not left-handed, so that's a little bit more difficult than it looked by me. It's actually pretty simple. Take my clips, put them over on the seat so they're out of the way. Now you can see I can see all the way to the back of my dashboard. So I'm going with a 16 gauge wire. I'm just going to take this and feed it between the dashboard and the windshield. And again, don't go down in your defroster. You're actually going between the dash and the glass. Use a stiffer wire. If you need to fish something through first, use something a little thicker and then you can fish it back up. As you can see, I popped out right here. So that just came right down through from the top down the corner. Like I said, I ended up pulling, started right about where the windshield wiper is, and it's more to the right. To the left I run into some more stuff. If you look down there, you get the blower motor, there's more stuff. So if you go more to the right, it seems to be a better shot to get the wire through there. So I'm going to pull that down through. I'm going to join it to my hot down here, and once I get it to my hot down there, I'll be able to get a ground up top. So what I've done is I've just stuck my hand in through here. Sorry you can't see it. My finger is way over there. So I'm reaching up underneath. I've grabbed my wire and I'm going to pull it down through to where I can get a hold of it. When I get done, I will zip tie that probably to that little loophole there, and I'll hook it back on that part back there so it doesn't get in the way of the glove box operation. So for now I'm just going to close my glove box. That way it's not in the way. So I've got my wire down here below. Like I said, it's just through there. I'm going to zip tie it so it's not hanging down anywhere. It'll be behind this panel anyhow. I'm going to join it into my key-on wire here. I'm going to make my connection underneath of here instead of behind the glove box. Even though I've got enough wire here, I could drag this all the way probably up through. If I ever want to add anything, take it apart, whatever reason, I'd rather have my connection here behind this one panel that takes 2 seconds to pop off. So I've stripped my wire back, cut off the excess. I've got a butt splice in there. I'm going to actually use a pair of crimpers on it. Crimp it all the way across. Make sure my ends are tight, which they are. And I'm going to tape that up anyhow. You don't have to tape it up, but since it's key on hot, just in case it comes loose for whatever reason. Don't know why I ever would, but the tape's not going to hurt it any. So wrap that. Like so. Then I'm going to leave a little bit of excess down there, so if I want to add down here now, I'll still have a little bit of wire to play with. And I'm not worried about tying it up yet. I'm just going to kind of get it in position. Again, my cover's going to cover all that up there. My zip ties are going to hold it in place back here. So I'm going to go into my glove box again. You can see that wire just kind of found its own little home in there. The wire actually dropped underneath of my blower here. It's right there. It's actually not in a bad spot there. I'm feeling in here there's nothing for it to get caught on. So I'm just going to leave it right where it is. The glove box operates fine. The blower's not in the way. It's up off the floorboard and it's not going to hurt anything where it is. So the only thing I'm looking at is back in the back here. Not sure if you can see it on the camera or not. This is not metal. I just want to make sure that I'm not nowhere near any metal. So like this is jagged metal. You don't want that in there rubbing back and forth. So make sure you're not on anything metal. I've got a small wiring harness here. I'm going to zip tie to that little wiring harness just to keep it off the metal. Alright, back up top now. So I'm going to just take this. I'm just going to push it behind the plastic. So the plastic is really soft. It's easy to push behind. Once we get it tight, it's going to keep popping out a couple places here and there, but once you get it to where you're going and we pull it tight, it's going to pull itself tight behind that plastic and it shouldn't pop out on you anymore. So I just took it and I just hooked it up in here for now just to keep a little tension off of it. Put a little tension on it, I should say, while I push that back in. Now I've just got it kind of in place. Again, once I get done here, I'll tuck that in, make sure it stays down in. Right now I've just got a little tension here to keep it from falling back out. Basically, we're just fitting it in place for now. This will tuck in behind this all the way down through here. And when you get to this point here, if you take this and just fish it right up behind or right above the visor, if I can hold on to it. It's easier to do with two hands than one. I'm going to push this up through this hole. Sorry about the crappy camera. I can actually reach up through the hole. I'm going to sit the camera down to do it. Alright, all I did was switch hands. I haven't done anything after, but I just reached up and pulled my wire through. So now there's my hot key on from all the way to from the bottom to the top. So I'm going to put this somewhere where it won't come loose. So I'm just going to take it for now and wrap it around here, just so it doesn't fall back down through the hole. Again, this is a whole lot easier if you're using both of your hands and not one. Alright, so that's not going to fall back out now. And now I'm just going to go back through here and tuck this in. Again, right there where the headliner is, you can get that up in there. Just don't pull down, don't tear your headliner. As you can see, it tucks up in there really nice. Alright, so I got a pin puller here, and I'm just going to take it and just, I just want to get it tucked to where it doesn't pop out of there. So the wire is completely hidden behind the pillar. It's behind the dashboard. It's up under here. I'm going to take my tool and same thing. Again, I don't want to tear my headliner up. I'm not going to push it in there super hard. And if you're using a metal tool like I'm using here, sorry for that angle, don't pierce your wire. Don't cut a hole in your wire. And as soon as it gets to this point, now it's behind that piece of plastic, all the way up through and out of my hole. So from up top here, we've got a couple different lights on here. One of them is probably the door sensor, so when you open the doors it turns the lights on temporarily. The other is probably the manual, so you can actually manually override it. So this is probably a constant hot here. This black wire is 9 times out of 10 my ground. I'm going to check that, and I'm going to show you how to check the ground. Basically, if you take that black wire and you take your voltmeter, touch to any good ground in the vehicle, it should ohm out to 0. So basically you're going to put your meter on ohms, you're going to run it through, and there should be no resistance on that line because you're going from the frame to the wire. So there should be 0 on your meter. If you got dash, 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 or any number in between, it's not a good ground. Find you somewhere else to ground it from. I've got my ohm meter set, so I'm ready to go. On the back of the wire, I'm going to take my ground on the black wire here. I'm going to push it through here. So I'm making contact with the pin. So I'm touching the metal there. I'm going to use my door frame over here to check it with. So I think I've got the voltmeter where you can see it. Or I had it where you can see it. When I touch the frame over here, I'll go to 0. So I know that ground goes from the wire I'm on to the frame over here. You can do that on any part of the metal in this vehicle though. Unfortunately, the only place to get metal from, closest thing is over here. So if you did that and you got any number besides 0, there's some sort of resistance in the line and you want to find a different ground. So I know for a fact I got a good ground now right here on the back of my harness. So I'm just going to pull this wire harness back a little bit and I'm going to tap into that ground and use the same ground the lights up too. Okay, I pulled my wiring harness back a little bit so I can get a good clamp on the ground there. This stuff's a pain in the butt to get peeled back, so I didn't want to take 5 minutes showing you how to peel it back. But basically, once you get it started, you can slide the felt tape back up it. So I'm going to make me a little ground wire off of this. Again, there's my hot key on. Once I connect those together, I'll put my blades on the back of my connector or my USB port, and I'll be ready to go. Okay, so I've got my leads that came with my USB port. What I want to do is I want to use a clamp-on connector. So basically I'm going to slide this over top of this ground, squeeze it, and it's going to basically make me a ground off of it. If you've never used one of these before, the inside edge stops on one side but not the other, so there's a stop here. There's not a stop on the other side. So basically you want to slide this in. I don't know if you can see it on the camera, probably not, but if you could see that, you can actually see the wire goes up inside and past the, yeah, I think you can kind of see it there. But basically my wire is past the connector. So when I squeeze that down, it's going to pierce this wire that I'm putting into it. It's going to pierce this wire here and basically make a connection for me. So I'm going to lay this one inside. See how it snapped in there? So both sides are through. Hopefully you can see that on the camera. I'm going to take a pair of pliers, channel locks, whatever you want to use. Don't pinch your wires on the back there. And when you squeeze this, that blade is going to go through both wires around the outside edge and make a connection. So not going to fall apart, not going to fall apart. And then you got a little hat there that closes. And there's my ground. So my ground's done now. Now to verify, I'm going to do the same thing I did earlier. I'm going to take my ohm meter, flip back to ohms. So to verify, I'm going to take my ohm meter, go back to ohms. Again, I'm going to just put my wire in my ground here. I'll touch the frame, and I got 0. So that means I've got an excellent ground right here. So I'm going to tie my hot in now. I'm just going to use a barrel connector for that. I'm going to splice off not much wire, just a little bit of wire. Nice clean cut. Make sure you don't have any little pieces hanging off. If you have little pieces hanging off, cut it again. So that one in. That in. Take my crimping tool. Make sure if you pop out like I just did there, you push it back up before you crimp it. Crimp that side. This is a good crimped wire. Connections tight on both sides. Same thing as I did down below. I'm going to tape it up just for my own sanity. Next step is to verify we got a key on now. So I'm going to put my probe in here. I've got my voltmeter set to DC. Put my probe in my hot and my ground, and then we're just going to key on. As soon as we key on, we should jump up to 12 volts. Perfect. Key off, dies instantly. So we know this is a key on accessory now. Now that I know that, I'm going to disconnect my probe, both sides. I'm going to take my USB connector, and you want to verify these. These ones I bought off of Amazon. I'll put the link in the description. The silver is actually the hot, and the copper is the ground, which is kind of backwards of what I'm used to seeing. Most of the time copper is a hot and silver is ground, so make sure you verify your posts. I'm going to put my post on there. If I can get the lead into it. And then we're key on. So this is the same one I used down below, except for the power button this time. You can't turn it on and off. So I'm key on. I've got power. Key off. No power. Key on. Power. Key off. No power. That's exactly what I wanted. Now again, this device I'm just going to put up in here. I'm going to leave it for now because basically I want to figure out if I'm going to add more stuff to it or not. This has rubber connectors on the end, so I'm not worried about it touching anything. If you don't have rubber connections on the end, make sure you tie them off so you don't have any problems. So now that I know that works, the next step is to get my wire out to my camera. So I've got a small USB, so I think that's a USB-A for this camera. I'm going to feed it through here and down into here, and then I'm going to go back and tie my wires in place here. I'm going to make sure I'm tucked up underneath my windshield, make sure it didn't pop out anywhere all the way back to the bottom. Put my bottom panel back on, and this project should be done. Now to save myself a little bit of time, I can fish another wire through there and pull this back through it, but I'm just going to tape this wire I've got here. I'm not going to put a lot on there, just enough to kind of keep it together. I'm going to push my excess down through here because I can still get it up front because I'm not done tucking away yet. I'm just going to pull it to where my cable pops out through the front. Like so. I'll take the tape off. I didn't stick it on there too good. Like so. Plug my camera in. Like so. Feed my hot back up. Tuck it back up in my window. And I'm ready to go. Like I said, I'll take this and just kind of zip tie it over into here. Wrap it around once, maybe, whatever makes it look better. And then that's all I'll see. So up top here, I don't want this wire popping back out all the time on me. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to make sure I can pull the tension off of it. Or put some tension on it. Again, sorry. Got bass backwards there. I'm going to tape that to this wire over here just to keep some tension on it, so when I put it back up in here, it doesn't pop back out my windshield. Used a motorcycle, sorry. Make sure my connections are on here good. Again, I'm just going to take this and tuck it up in here. I'm going to tuck this wire back up in here because there's plenty of room up in there. Turn my lights back around. Make sure I don't pinch my wire in the front. Make sure my clips are in the back. Pop it up in, and there's a nice clean install for your dash camera. Again, once you zip tie that in place or figure out which way you want to run it, all set. Something else also, if you do take your dash cam down or out, you may not want to zip tie it at all. Just you can unhook it, pull it down out of there. I don't think the wire's ever going to fall out of there. If it starts to fall out, you can pull this down and you can pull the slack out of that and put it back up in there, but I'm going to leave that one just like it is. So our last few steps, one is going to be putting our glove box tabs back in. I want to look under here again and make sure that I'm not hitting anything that I don't want to hit. Again, I want to keep it off anything metal, anything that's going to be sharp. I'm going to tie this one to this wire down below here because, again, like I said, I don't want to hit that. So one of the last things I want to do is I want to make sure I'm not touching anything metal in here. So I'm going to, again, zip tie this. There's a wiring harness right here, so I don't hit that piece of metal back there. Even though it's floating free right now, I don't want it to get caught in the future. Don't zip tie something where you can't ever cut it loose. So if you tie this down here, make sure there's a way to cut it loose. If you can't reach down to cut it loose, find some place else to tie it that it won't get caught, but you'll actually be able to get to it in the future. So with my wire in place, I'm ready to put my glove box up. So to put this back in, basically we're going to reverse what we did earlier. The rubber is the stop, the plastic, or the little rubber piece sticking out of the back is the back side. So basically you want the bigger part facing you. You want to put it through the square on the side, lift the glove box up to where it's past the stop, push down on the bottom and the top, and it just pops back in place. This side might be a little easier to see. Again, this is just one of those positions where you can't get a hand the camera in the light without getting in the way of something. So I slid it through there first. It's easier for me to put my bottom in first and then the top, but whatever works for you. Either way, as long as both those clips go through. Once you get it started, it just pushes in. And that, again, that's just what stops the glove box from falling all the way back down. Glove box is in, and last thing we gotta do is put our floor panel. So push that where it's out of the way. Run it down with this one. And again, remember on your floor panel, this little tab, you'll see a hole back in there that actually goes back in, catches the hole, and slides in place like so. And then once you get it there, there's a tab at the bottom, tab at the top, and they just pop in. If they go any harder than that, you probably got something wrong. Take it back apart and do it again. You might also notice some body gaps on this. I noticed this also before I even started touching it. A lot of these pieces will pull down, like I just pulled that one back in together. This vehicle is a work vehicle. It's not a Mercedes, it's not a BMW. Plastic doesn't always line up perfect on these vehicles, so one little bump with somebody's foot and that's going to pop back out of there again. That's just life. That's just the way it is. So I'm going to clean up my floorboard, take it out for a test drive, make sure it all works, which I already know it works, but, and again, that's just how I decided to run my key on up top for my dash cam without anything else in the window except for the camera itself.